So, why we fight? Why do we do it together? Um, I listed off a bunch of things at the top of this call that are pretty tough news. And if you have not been, sequestered in a bunker with no Wi-Fi for the last month, then you will have seen any number of pretty horrific things in the news, and all sorts of things that make you really question a lot of why things are happening, how we could let it get this bad, and just lots of instances of things that make you want to kind of hide your head in the sand. So we'll be talking just a little bit here about why it's important and why it's actually beneficial for our brains to do something about it, even if it's something super small. Um, so ignore the extra things from the slides. In the darkest times, our connections to each other bring the light, and this is really super duper true. Um, we have seen time and time again uh, that what causes things to get dangerous and risky, and um, the biggest risks happen when we can't rely on each other or when people are isolated. And there's a ton of reasons for this, but part of the reason is that, isolation makes people um, less able to handle anything, less able to cope with things because you're shouldering everything by yourself. If you've ever heard the phrase, a shared joy is double joy, a shared burden is half the burden, I think that really applies here. So this is going to be a little interactive. So if people want to share in the chat a word or two about what feelings come up for you when you think about the news, could be lately, could be just when you're watching the news. But yeah, share some of your thoughts. Yeah, I'm seeing determined, turbulence, anxious, overwhelmed, helpless at times, worried, anxious, angry, grief, incredulous. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Um, so it's all these huge, big feelings, and that happen all the time. And it can make it kind of tough to deal with and tough to be especially when things are so bad that you are like, I need to breathe. I need to take a second. Um, how do you deal with that when things are so urgent and when things are trying to come at you one after another? Um, So part of the problem of this is somewhat of a modern problem, because we have now in our modern day and age a 24-hour news cycle, with an overwhelming amount of information available at any time, especially if you get push notifications, for news alerts, especially if you spend a lot of time on social media where things pop up on your feed at any given time. And there's very little, it's not the same as it used to be where people used to watch the nightly news, get all of it in that hour, and then outside of that, maybe hear things from people talking, but it's not constantly on your phone at any given time. So there's that. And actually, since I originally wrote this slide for a presentation a while ago, a new thing that we have to comprehend and deal with is the influx of AI content and feeling like you can't necessarily trust everything that you're seeing on top of all of it. Um, there's also a focus in the media on people at the very, very top, who are making decisions in closed rooms, very far away from you often, especially even geographically here in the Bay Area, people in DC feels far away, and it feels like it's something be outside of your hands. And a lot of media these days are literally bought and paid for by gigantic corporations, by billionaire owners, even local news companies a lot of them have been bought out by major news sites that are largely owned by oligarchs, billionaires, corporations, and they are free to share plenty of misinformation and propaganda with the intention of disempowering you, distancing you from the issue and from each other, distracting you, and disenfranchising you. And distracting, think about when people really push for culture war things, so things that, have very little impact on daily life for most people, um, for example, trans people in sports. It's an important issue to protect trans people in sports, but the people who are talking about this issue, who are on the other side of things, are talking about it's like this world-ending catastrophe thing when there's fewer than like 15 cases in some places where it even means anything. Um, and disenfranchising you. So, making it so that you are less likely to vote, less likely to use your power. And then also in our current systems, we currently have high cost of living, low pay, and that means that we have to spend a ton of time and energy in working and pushing our time for hobbies, friends, and community, nature, activism, the things that refill our cup to the edges because we just have to make it through. We have to make sure we have enough to get by. So that also compounds with this. Um, Doubled that up. Oops. And then as many of you I think would agree, we have increasing social isolation as well, especially in car-dominated areas where people are only going from their door to their car, grocery store, car, or to work and back. Or maybe they're even not even going to the grocery store, they're getting things delivered in. But just less casual interaction with the people around us. And then less deeper interaction with the people around us, fewer community spaces, fewer intergenerational friendships, fewer support systems, less people going to, people talk about bowling alleys, but also like churches are not as, uh, attended as they were in the past, or, other like community groups that meet, especially that meet in public and in person. And then work-centric culture pushes people to focus on grinding and like, I have to make this happen. I have to focus on meeting my goals and, eschew everything else. And this kind of keeps us in this frantic headspace. And all of these things really do feed into the ideals of it makes it for a ripe ground for breeding fascism in the public, and fascist ideals. So these are just some of the like pillars, the tenets of like how fascism works. This is from a book by Jason Stanley of the same name, How Fascism Works. But I thought this would be helpful. These are the relevant ones to some of the things that we are seeing currently. Um, so, talking about the mythic past, fascists draw on a mythic past to justify a glorious future. Make America great again. When was America last great? What are we talking about? A time before immigrants that did not exist except for the time pre-colonization. Um, and then propaganda. Propaganda in fascist politics often operates through inflammatory speech, stirring hostility and manipulating emotions, displacing reasoned public debate with fear and division. So, instead of doing facts and figures, people are using very heightened emotion words to push these issues. And anti-intellectual as well, that ties into it, where it attacks education, expertise, language, weakening the tools necessary for informed public debate, and calling anybody who uses big words on it a liberal, elitist, like intellectual, whatever. and using group identity as the only basis for judgment. And unreality, this idea of flooding it with falsehoods, attacking trusted institutions, AI, making it so that you don't know what you can believe anymore, destabilizing reality, shifting truth from a shared understanding to the authority of a leader. And this has been happening since we had Kellyanne Conway saying that there was alternative facts being used. What is the truth? And if there's no one grip on the truth, then it's easier for them to say whatever they want to say. Um, oops. And then hierarchy, um, expands dignity, and liberal, like lowercase liberal or uppercase liberal. Liberal as a more broad term means like, expanding dignity and rights to all. And fascist ideology sees hierarchy as rooted in nature, dominance of the powerful, stuff like that. And equality is unnatural. And victimhood, blurring the lines between equality and discrimination, portraying dominant group as victims of a hidden conspiracy, and law and order, where we're talking about dividing the society into naturally lawful and inherently criminal, portraying those who defy traditional norms, such as women, outside gender roles, non-whites, immigrants, religious minorities, as threats to order simply by existing. Um, and you can see a lot of that happening right now. Um, so these are seven of the 10 that they use. I thought they were the most relevant. But we can see how these things can take root, especially in a people that are being told to fear each other and hate each other, um, which is especially powerful when people are isolated. And when you don't know the people next to you, it is easy to be made to be afraid of them. Um, if you're not friends with trans people, then you can buy this idea, that you're being sold that, oh, trans people are, you know, not actually good people instead of just a normal person. Um, so how can we combat these tactics and narratives? And, where there's all sorts of misinformation and all sorts of dangerous rhetoric and this unreality, championing truth. So we're seeing time and time again, um, currently after they killed Alex Preddy, saying that he was dangerous, saying that he had a gun, saying that all these things, and having the video has been very important to being like, no, we all have eyes, and not letting them say this lie when we know the truth. And it's important to, try to share truth wherever possible and really call out when things are not actually true. Um, and then, when there's things around empathy, hatred of each other, distrust of each other, division, we can combat that by seeking out and intentionally doing more connection, work on our empathy, our trust among our people, especially people that are different from you. And that includes thinking about people who are maybe buying into some of this. Buying into some of this narrative, because if you can find a path of connection to people who likely, not every case, but likely are being sold this because it benefits the people above them. Um, but maybe they have a stronger connection to you and they also have not been able to pay their utility bills. And hey, don't you think that those companies shouldn't be able to make a bunch of money off of us, but we can't pay our bills? And hey, don't you think that, and kind of getting people to defect from those ideas a little bit by connecting and sharing with them and getting them to empathize with other people that share their struggles, or understanding of those struggles. And part of loudly countering dangerous rhetoric is rejecting the normalization of fascism and associated activities in any way possible. So, making it so that that nothing becomes a new normal and calling out every time, this is not okay. And we need to make sure that our normal is the opposite of that. Um, and part of that, building out more community structures and systems and empowering ourselves and each other. Um, so if people want to take a second here as well and share in the chat, what are some things that you have seen recently that have given you hope? Maybe a spark of joy, something that has really spoken to you, or just a little tiny thing that has made you feel hopeful. I'm seeing the people of Minneapolis coming together against ICE. My friends and communities, the numbers on the street in Minneapolis, in Minnesota. Yeah. Seeing so many youth activists reading a lot and trying to create an understanding of what's happening, getting involved in action with like various orgs here, citizens coming together in their own communities to raise their voice, even directly confront injustices, taking action by signing petitions, calling my representatives and senators. These are great. It's community coming together to keep each other safe. Totally. Absolutely. Expansion of solar power. Yeah. Creating music, going to a peace protest, seeing the pushback having an effect. Totally. Seeing electeds shift. Yeah. Forced to state that current affairs are not okay. Yeah. It only took dire circumstances. Yeah. Okay. Seeing usually apolitical spaces speaking out about everything going on, including cat subreddits. Totally. Yeah. So it's part of this thing of, not it's really powerful when you can hear other people say, no, we agree this is not normal. No, we're not going to just let it slide by. Um, no, this is not acceptable to me. Um, oops, I ran out of my slides that I had. Oh, never mind. These are just some screenshots I took of different ways that people in uh Minnesota and also across the country have been like taking care of each other. These are some of the things that are giving me hope. So, a tow company that's volunteering to return abandoned cars, nightly healing spaces, uh, patrols, delivering groceries, offering rides, offering healthcare, like support from healthcare workers, know your rights trainings. There's been dispatch systems in Minneapolis. There's some really great reports about how that's been going, where they have neighborhood chats and they'll as soon they follow them to the edge of the neighborhood and then contact the people in the next neighborhood to let them know and just getting really tight with that. All the candlelight vigils, attended one last night in honor of Alex Preddy, businesses closing in solidarity, um, lots of networks and school carpools, helping with documentation, showing up as escorts at court appearances, and in general, people across the country are working together to protect one another from Trump's immigration attacks, crackdowns, and these things have ripple effects beyond just protecting ourselves in the face of immigration crackdowns, because even if they shut down the ICE program tomorrow and they all disappeared to the face of the earth, you could only dream. Um, those people now know each other and they now have networks of communication. And if somebody gets sick, somebody else can help them out and somebody can watch their kid and, that sort of thing. Um, so this kind of goes to the central premise of this, and we'll wrap up shortly. um, with this section, but uh, is attributed to Joan Baez, the phrase that I use all the time, which is action is the antidote to despair. And it really does not have to be a big thing at all, but to do one small thing will make you feel better than sitting at home being like, oh, I should have done this or I should be doing this, because perfect is also the opposite of good. We do not need a perfect person coming to this space. It only serves the powers that be if you hold yourself back because you think you're not coming at it the right way, or you don't know the right words, or you don't know this. Perfect is so overrated. You just need to do one thing, and that one thing can be super small. Um, so I'll have another share out section here, and then we'll kind of wrap up this section. But how has taking action impacted you? So you can put this in the chat, or you can, raise your hand and be unmuted. And it doesn't have to just be with regards to this issue, but with climate. Um, with racial justice, with organizing like for unions, anything like that. How is where what is an instance of taking action impacting you? And I pre-arranged to be able to pick on somebody, so I'm gonna pick on Angela real quick to share a thought or two.
Hey everyone. Am I coming across okay audio-wise? Okay, perfect. Yeah, there's just something that I wanted to share, which is, full disclosure, I'm not someone who's prone to optimism naturally. But I say that to say that I think like working with the mobilizing team has really cut through a lot of like my skepticism and despair. I think just kind of a tangible example is gathering signatures with the mobilizing team and, being the person with the clipboard. And um, I found out that like there plenty of people, there's so many people that like care about the climate, recognize that like we need to take action and want to take action, but it's just so like difficult without kind of prior knowledge or like like uh, long-term engagement to know where to start. And I just feel like, being the person with the clipboard to like provide an opportunity for people to take action, I think revealed to me that like people care, people are really nice. They, are want to like use their voice, but it's just hard to know how. And so I think that in combination with, seeing what's going on in Minnesota, like I have a lot of hope that there's like, a lot of like latent will and energy to like make a change. And also like tangibly, the mobilizing team isn't huge, but over kind of like several weeks of concerted effort and signature gathering, we got hundreds of signatures of like just residents in the Bay Area, specifically targeting like certain representatives that we wanted to target. So yeah, even just like a small team of young people, I think it was really awesome to see that we could gather hundreds of signatures.
Thanks, Angela. Yeah, I appreciate the you sharing. And I also see some things in the chat. Thank you. Yeah, and I just want to echo everything you said because I think that's really what's up. Hold on, I gotta get my thing get my thing right. Um, there we go. Um, Yeah, it really is an antidote for apathy and despair, and finding one thing that you can do has ripple effects because your how you act changes how other people see normal behavior and normal expectations of like what we do. So if you really casually like do all this stuff and you tell your friends and family about it, they'll be like, "Oh, yeah. Yeah, I should do that too. Oh, that's actually pretty easy." Um, and know that you are not alone, and the care and attention you put out into the world comes back to you. And anytime that you can remind other people that strangers are, uh, you know, are nice and humans and like people that others should care about, that's a net positive. And if when you actively look for the good things in our world, you do find them. Also, please do take breaks for your mental health. I just put a bunch of small ways that people can take action um, that are not big. And these are on the left, there's more like political ones. And then on the right, there's things that, also are ways to take action. But, just talking to people about what's happening, talking to your neighbors, picking up trash on a walk, putting food and supplies in your local free fridge, making a meal for somebody, helping watch somebody's kids, holding open doors. We are the only people that are going to make the world and the community that we want to see are us. Um, so that is what it's all about. Um, that takes us to an end of that section. Thank you for joining us for that.